Hey everyone, it's Peter from Argo. We just put out an RNS, an operational update for the month of July, and there's a lot in the video, so I wanted to walk you through some of the key points. Obviously, there is the July numbers. We also have a financing update on our how much Bitcoin we've sold and the results of that to our Bitcoin-backed loan. There's also an update to the power costs in Texas. And then lastly, there's an update to our overall hash rate calculations. We've made an adjustment there. And so I'm going to walk you through those four topics. There's a lot to cover, so I have my glasses. I'm going to be putting them on and off as I read the screen. So for the month of July, just the straight numbers, we mined 219 Bitcoin. That's up from 179 for the month of June, and that's because we've had more hash rate coming on at Helios. Our mining revenue was 3.89 million pounds, or $4.73 million. Mining margin of 37.4% for the month of July. That's down from the month of June. It was 50%. At the end of the month, we held 12,000, that would have been nice. At the end of the month, we held 1,295 Bitcoin, of which 227 are Bitcoin equivalents, i.e. with the Argo Labs team. I'll talk about the margin. Obviously, margin's not where we want it to be. That is due to power costs in Texas. And I'll walk you through why our power costs in Texas are where they are and why that's a temporary situation. So there is some short-term pain this summer in Texas. That's not just for us, that's for everyone. So I'll walk you through kind of the margin. In terms of the financing update. So we sold, I'm doing pretty well without my glasses actually, but the font does get smaller here as I keep going. We sold 887 Bitcoin at an average price of approximately 22,670. The majority of those Bitcoin were proceeds that went towards paying back our Bitcoin-backed loan. That is something that we have been deleveraging from over the last 3, 4, 5 months. And that's been a strategic decision by the company to make sure that's not a future risk if Bitcoin was to drop low. So the balance of that loan is now just under 7 million, 6.72 million US. And it was as high as 50 million. So you can see that is kind of almost completely deleveraged now, and we're happy with where that's at. All right, on to power costs. So for the month of July, and also for June, and also for this month, our power costs in Texas are higher than we expected them to be. And that's because we currently have a PPA, a power purchase agreement, that is connected to the index price, the spot prices. So when prices are very high, we shut down. When prices are reasonable, we mine. When prices are low, we mine as much as we can. Eventually, we want to obviously have a fixed price PPA where we have a flat price, and that allows us to really get those low prices in Texas, which we expect over the long term. But given where power prices are in the world right now, with the situation with a high demand for natural gas because of the war in Ukraine. There's a very hot summer in much of the United States, and particularly in Texas. It's been over 100 degrees for many, many days. Power prices are really high. So it's like signing a mortgage when interest rates are really high. You have to wait for them to come down. That's expected to happen closer to the end of the summer into September. And then we will be able to hopefully lock in a very good fixed price PPA. So there's going to be some short-term pain this summer. The good news is that the situation in Texas, there's been, I think as a lot of you know, a huge amount of growth of mining in Texas and a lot of demand for power. And ERCOT has kind of put the brakes on a lot of energizing a lot of sites. And so if you've been reading mining updates from other miners, there's lots of people who are waiting to be energized. That didn't happen to us. We energized in May on time, and we have our power. So that's a win. The downside is that power costs are high because of the hot summer, and because we don't have that fixed price PPA. And that was kind of planned. We were waiting to sign the fixed price PPA until you're energized. You don't sign it ahead of time because that's power that you're not going to use. And then when we energized, prices were high because it was already hot. So we need to wait for the end of the summer, and then our expectations are that we will be able to sign a long-term fixed price PPA that works. Hence, there will be, our margin was 37%. Not a great margin, not where we want to be, and that should change in the future, given our expectations to sign a good PPA. Other pieces that people have been asking about in terms of curtailment and conservation, in the kind of early part of July, I think it was July 11th and 13th, ERCOT issued a conservation alert asking everyone in residential, commercial, industrial users to shut down, give power back to the grid. Argo, complied with that, participated. We shut down, gave our power back. And I think overall as an industry, the mining industry gave about 1,000 megawatts back. On kind of any given day, the total capacity of the grid, the generation capacity of the grid in Texas is about 86,000 megawatts or 86 gigawatts. So, miners are just north of 1% of, at least the miners who curtailed on those particular days is just over about 1% of the power use in Texas. In terms of long-term relationships with the grid and miners in Texas, we're confident that the conversations that are happening with ERCOT are going to work out favorably. But there's definitely, some conversations to be had. We have to make sure that we are good, corporate citizens and making sure that power is being allocated appropriately. The good news for us, again, is our location in West Texas, where we strategically set up. There happens to be an enormous amount of renewable power. A lot of it is curtailed because of transmission issues. So there should be no issue with us in terms of getting power in the future from everything that we've heard so far. One other piece on the power thing. In Texas, there's also something called 4 coincidental peaks, or the 4CP program. And that's where ERCOT measures the energy usage from large industrial scale users on certain peak days in June, July, and August and September. And on those particular days, you want to be very low in your power costs. Otherwise, it will affect your power costs over the next 12 months. So there's also some curtailment that happens around those 4CP days. And again, that's part of being kind of initiated into the grid in Texas. So we're managing ourselves through that, and that's led to a little bit more curtailment as well. But overall, we're happy with our numbers, our mining situation in Texas. Obviously, the immersion facility is working quite well, and we've been able to control the heat through the summer because it's been a very hot summer in Texas. Okay, on to the hash rate update. The good news is at the end of July, we finished our 4th swap of the Core Scientific machine swap deal. So we are now completely self-hosted. All of the roughly 10,000 machines that were ours at Core are now belong to Core, and the machines that they have sent us are now mining for us at Helios. So that's a huge moment for us. We haven't been fully self-hosted since we first started in Quebec in 2018. We started putting machines, I think, in late 2018, early 2019 with GPU1 in Quebec. So it's been a few years since we've been fully self-hosted, and it's nice to get back to that. We again believe that it's best to own your own infrastructure, to control your own destiny, and Helios is doing that for us very well so far. As part of that whole process of finishing the machine swap, we also did a full review of our entire fleet with a specific focus on the 17 series. I think if you've been following the space at all over the last few years, you'll know that the 17 series were essentially lemons, did not perform to their expectations, had all sorts of technical problems. And so those machines, we kind of took a real deep look at and determined that approximately 460 petahash worth of those 17 series machines are no longer really operational or fixable. And so we are taking that hash rate out of our overall hash rate. Overall, of our 17 series, there's 645 petahash worth of machines. So that's the majority of the 17 series we're now taking out of our hash rate calculations. We will continue to repair those machines that we think can be fixed, but it's a small percentage of the overall machines that we have. The machines that are being repaired, we are sending to our facility in Baie-Comeau. We recently did that, put some more back into action there. And we've also sent 800 down to the immersion facility at Helios. But it is a slow process. And anyways, that's something that is ongoing. In terms of the financial performance of the 17 series machines, if you take them as an aggregate group, the total ROI is in excess of 260% for those machines. Those machines first went into action in the spring of 2019 and then were installed through to the spring of 2020. So some of them have been mining for over 3 years. Some of them, it's about 2.5 years. They were depreciated over 36 months. So some of them will have about a 6-month write down. But for the majority of them will have fully depreciated before we're taking them out of action. The full details of that we'll put in our interim results, which are coming up in the next little while. All of this means that our overall hash rate is being adjusted. So we're no longer going to take into consideration that 460 petahash from the 17 series of machines. So at the end of July, our hash rate capacity is now 2.23 exahash. So that's roughly the same as it was at the end of June, because we've added more machines at Helios, the 19 series, the S19 series, and we have removed the non-performing, non-operational, non-repairable 17 series, or a portion of the 17 series. So that puts us at about 2.23 exahash overall for machines. All right, that is the update. Like I said, a lot to cover. But in general, we are very happy with where we're going, and machine installation continues. We have about 3,000 machines arriving per month at Helios. The team on the ground is doing a great job installing them. The immersion system is working well, and we're optimistic for Q3 and Q4 as these machines continue to come online. If the price of Bitcoin was to go up a little bit, that would help. But overall, we are pleased with where we're at. All right, thanks everyone. Onwards and upwards.